Let's do something new. Alright, number one, I'm testing out how to screen record and record myself in the camera at the same, put it into Final Cut with multiple angles. Let's start here. Bodycon Brazil, bikinis. Let's see what they have to say. Nothing. Just. Alright, got that. Good way to start, nah? Alright, now this is pretty interesting. I read a little snippet of this. Meet the Confederados. Defeated in the Civil War, some Southerners refused to live in the land without slavery. They also hated the idea of being part of the Union. So they left the United States altogether. Where'd they go? 10 to 20,000 estimated, packed up and headed further south to Brazil itself, where they would be known as the Confederados. Some returned during the Reconstruction period of the United States, but most stayed and built their new lives here in a new country. Why Brazil? For one, slavery was still legal in Brazil. Secondly, cotton grew well here, and Brazil had a cotton industry that at the time was beginning to pick up a lot of steam. Emperor Dom Pedro II offered tax incentives to American Southerners who lost their land and most of their belongings in the War of the Rebellion, were eager to make a new start and accepted the emperor's invitation. According to Maria Helena Machado, a historian of slavery at the University of Sao Paulo, enough Americans made their way to the country to change people's DNA in only a few decades. The Confederados managed to slowly grow their new nation's slave trade. Slaves could be purchased at a fraction of the cost of what they could be purchased in the United States. Some of the transplants ran for local government. Colonel William Hutchinson Norris served as imperial congressman for the state of Sao Paulo. This picture is taken here in Brazil. Looks like a bunch of homeboys. Not Georgia. The descendants of the failed Confederacy really love their stars and bars down here. Most claim that is just a symbol of their shared heritage and no political meaning to them at all. The Confederacy lives on in Brazilian towns like Americana and with the good old boys of Brazil. A Woman and Her Slaves, Brazil, 1860. This battle-scarred, one-eyed jaguar stares down South African photographer Marlon Dutoit in the wetlands of Pantanal, Brazil. How'd you like to be camping in Pantanal? You hear a growl or whatever it is, and you open up the van door and boom, 1.5 eyes is staring at you. Could be a bad night. Crowded streetcar, Brazil. Turns out the buses are no different than the streetcars back then. This is 1986? That seems hard to believe. I bought my mom, when I first met Rita, a book, and it's got a big coffee table book, right? It's got a lot of pictures and stuff in it. In it is this photo, but it's much clearer. I didn't realize it was from 1986. I'm sorry. The Serra Pelada gold mine. In 1979, gold was found on a farm in an isolated part of Brazil. It was found to be part of a very large gold deposit. There was gold rush in the remote areas. Believed that 100,000 laborers are working in the mine. Brazilian photographer took a set of 28 photos at the mine in 1986. The film Pauaquatsi also contains film footage of the mine. That's freaking amazing. Speaking of gold, I have it on good authority that in the north end of the state of Goiás, certain países, I don't even know if I'm saying that right, let's say certain countries are paying off politicians, shocker, through the guise of save the Amazon and the wetlands. And what they're really doing is there's a new gold rush going on in the area of Serra da Mesa. They are loading up airplanes and expatriating that gold straight to their countries. You know the ones with like a queen and they just got a new king, that one. Now, I don't have first-hand knowledge of that, but I have it on good authority from someone that's extremely wealthy and knows a lot about the area. Tiger moth. How beautiful is nature, huh? Look at that. Sorry. Chupacabra. Oh, Rita would be so happy. We have a tree like that out by the pool. And I had to go pick off the, I can't even pronounce the stupid name. Chupacabra. It's like a fruit, kind of like a grape. Sweet, little sour maybe, but what you can make with it, and we did it when we first got here, the tree was shedding, I don't know, shedding. But when they're dark color like that, that's when you pick them, like a dark grape. Picked a bunch of them. We put them in a bottle, an old orange juice container, big gallon thing, and loaded it with cachaça, and it sat there for 6 weeks. Very good. Recommend it. That's the Botanical Park in Rio. Cool. Babe do Brazil. The Pompadour Cotinga in Brazil. Cool looking bird. Bird's cool. Not crazy cool. They're just cool. Right, Mom? Hope you've been picking up all this. Damn it. I had that way over there. Breeding ground. Why doesn't Brazil speak Spanish and English as a lingua franca? Because the Portuguese. And they kicked the Dutch's ass. Pele and Bobby Moore swapping jerseys after Brazil beat England in 1970. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Mayday, mayday. On his first and only visit, Albert Einstein didn't like Brazil. After days of living, he wrote, Brazil is too hot and humid to do any intellectual work. The last straw was a lecture given at the Club de Engenharia. On May 6th, there was no room for a soul inside the hot and suffocating auditorium. Einstein sweat as he tried to explain in French complex physics concepts to an audience of laymen. Just looking for stuff I'm interested in. Is it true that Brazilian culture and Brazilians' ways are closer to African culture? I don't know. They don't hate each other. They just disagree over football. One is one of many of them. One's working on it. Oh, this should be interesting. Is Brazil a better country than the USA? Is it? If it is, how? Anyone with a sense of humor spent time can understand what he meant. But anyway, Brazil is milder weather on average if you don't like the cold, and universal health care free at the point of delivery, which, despite its flaws, is great if you don't have a lot of money. Well, let's get into that. My mother-in-law just had a pacemaker put in 2 days ago. Imagine this office, which is maybe 15 feet by 12 feet. Put 3 full-size medical beds in there, 3 chairs, 3 IV machines, 3 little heart things, beep, beep, those things. That's where she was for recovery for a day and a half. Isabella spent 2 nights with her. One woman had Alzheimer's, so she kept talking about the same stuff. The other person had some kind of surgery, so wasn't in the mood to talk, and apparently Elsa was in the mood to talk. She just kept asking strange questions of the doctors and the nurses, and I don't know, more and more about their life. I assume it's because of her medication. Free healthcare ain't all it's cracked up to be. By the way, she's got insurance. What does ki? It's the same as ha 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 ha, but ki in Portuguese sounds like ka. Usually we're just laughing a little when we write only 3 Ks, but don't be scared, it's not a dog whistle. Try this again. How do British people feel with the fact that most Brazilians don't like them? Answer, you know, every time I come on Quora and see a question asking us Brits if we are aware of some population of a country hating us or asking how we feel about it, especially if it's a country with a low economy, high crime rate, or some other place conquered or beaten in a war, I normally carry on scrolling, but on this occasion I like to share my thoughts. I'll delay my answers. How do British people feel about that don't like them? Here it comes. Are you ready? You had better brace yourselves. Oh dear, how sad. So, he's kind of a douche. Which countries do you think have the best looking 3 are Afghanistan, Somalia, and Brazil? Well, that ain't Somalia. And it ain't Afghanistan. Definitely Brazil, you know why? Because Florianopolis done. That looks like it could be up north. Got beautiful eyes. Yeah, I'd agree with that. More northern Brazil, more African culture. Absolutely. I'm not going to answer. My Brazilian... Oh, these are always good ones. My Brazilian wife texts another guy in Portuguese, and they call each other amor and end with BJSS, which is beijos, like kisses, and kissy faces. She says that this is a normal way that Brazilians talk to friends. Is this true? The answer, quite surprisingly, it can be in the right context. The word amor is not in Portuguese, it's Italian, and matter of fact, your wife is certainly going over the top with her greetings, sounding a bit too enthusiastic. Given the little information you provide, I can't suspect foul play on her part. Maybe she's actually got a husband still in Brazil. She married you and she's sending money to him instead of who she says is a family. Did you ever think of that? Why was Brazil so peaceful before the Europeans arrived? Because that's not true. Oh, I'm going to say it's Mr. Demont. Yeah. Because America likes to steal everything. I'm American. That's true. So, interesting story. I had the occasion to meet a man. He was in his 60s and he wrote a book. I forget the name of the book. He lives in the Palm Beach area. Came across him, I don't know, probably 10 years ago. He told me a story of what his job was for the State Department. He would go to poorer countries along with another group of people. America would go there and say, hey, we'll give you loans to help you prop up your economy, get your banking system and businesses and blah, 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 knowing full well they'll never, ever be able to repay these loans. Well, on top of that, in the clauses of the contracts that these countries signed off on with America, and if you can't repay it, we get mineral rights. Think Panama, think Nicaragua, think Colombia. By the way, China's doing that all over the world now. In the guise of, I think it's China, CPI China, I forget. China something investments. They're doing it all over the Congo. Oh, so here's a good one for you. All the electric cars, all the stuff they need for the lithium batteries, cobalt is like, I don't know, it's probably wrong, but 70% of the battery. Okay, a lot of that cobalt comes out of the Congo. Guess who runs all the cobalt mines? China. Chinese workers. They build ports. They build everything. And then they send people on their way. How does it feel for Brazilians to be surrounded by Spanish-speaking countries? Cool, probably. I don't know. Okay, why is there little care in Brazil? Because in Brazil, there are bizarre things like Safadinha do Pix. 30-year-old woman was indicted by the civil police of the federal district for embezzlement after being accused of getting money by deceiving men with promises of future sexual relations. According to the 13th police station, responsible for investigating the case, the criminal, who became known to the victims as Safadinha do Pix, acted in relationship apps. She always invested in men who appeared to have good purchasing power and emotional instability and seduced them in conversations that involved affection and sex proposition. Assuming that is her, blurred her name. What is the meaning of view in Brazilian Portuguese? The word view in Brazilian Portuguese has many different meanings depending on the context. It can mean, did you see? You see? Okay, got it, right, understood. It's often used as a filler word or tag question and can be used to add emphasis or to get someone's attention. For example, you might say, view, eu disse que I chover. Murdered that. Did you see? She said it was going to rain. To emphasize that you were right, you might say, view. What are the benefits for Chinese car companies investing in Brazil? Several benefits for Chinese car companies investing in Brazil, including access to a large and growing market, lower labor costs, slave labor. Not as slavey as China, but pretty damn slavey. Lower labor costs and favorable government policies. Socialists love communists. Russia, China, North Korea, Argentina, Nicaragua, Venezuela, Cuba. See, get the picture? Brazil is one of the largest car markets in the world, and its growing middle class they ain't growing anymore. One of the largest car markets in the world, and its growing middle class represents a significant opportunity for car companies to expand. Ford pulled out. They still sell, but they don't have one of their major truck factories. That China bought that from Ford. See how they all just get along anyway. And by the way, the Cherries and Tigos, they're pretty damn nice looking cars, I gotta say. I don't know about the long term of the engine system, but I have read that the Tigo, I think it's a 2.8 liter twin turbo engine, put on like 28,000 straight hours at 5,800 RPM. That's screaming. Without a hitch, no wear and tear, 28,000 hours. I don't even know what that is. Shit. That's like 3.5 years. That's crazy. If it's true. They won the Guinness Book World Records, but I think we all know how that works. the money. Some of this shit is ridiculous. Pedro asks, is it common or popular for black Brazilian women to date and marry white Brazilian men? Do white Brazilian men generally go for black Brazilian women? And is it a way for black Brazilian women to marry up through? Answer, it's common. The other way around is common as well. Yeah, here it's not like such a huge deal. Blacks, whites. Is the United States as racist as Brazil? Pedro again. Pedro's got a lot to ask. There's more explicitly racial tension and conflict in the U.S. Perhaps for this very reason, blacks were able to fight together and overcome more difficulties. In Brazil, however, racial issues are framed as social or class issues alone, as if the legacy of slavery had nothing to do with it. Got a puppy dog right here. Not even going to go further. Why do some Brazilians feel bad for being Brazilians? When was Portuguese first spoken in Brazil? How about in 1500s when the Portuguese came? Are Brazilians still moving? Yep, they are. Are they still moving to Portugal in droves? They are now.